The Souls games are known for their bosses and, well, their extreme difficulty, but something I think the Souls games are made on are their areas. And in today's video, I'm going to be dragging out some more rankings on Souls game areas. And in today's video, I'm going to be ranking the hardest area throughout every single Souls game, from Demon Souls all the way through Elden Ring. And it's not like I really have to explain my criteria and why I'm giving these rankings, because it's just how hard it is. And every now and then I'll also be sliding in an honorable mention. And before we get to this, please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, comment any videos you want to see in the future, comment anything I can do better, and just comment any opinions that you have on this video. Anything in this video just that sparks anything in your brain, just comment it and let me know. And now it's time for the hardest area in Demon Souls. And for that, I'm going with the Swamp of Sorrow. And I'm pretty sure you guys were expecting this or a ritual path for Demon Souls. Now it's time to dig in on why this area is so hard. Well, it's not really that hard, at least compared to other Souls games' hardest areas. Firstly, poison. Obviously, poison is going to be a nuisance and something that just adds to the difficulty factor, because you're not going to want to get poisoned, and if you do, it's going to slowly tick away at your health. Secondly, this is a swamp area, so you know what that means. You're going to be moving super fucking slow. You're going to be in sludge the entire time, and you're going to be limited to an old man grandpa walk. And all these things aren't just exclusive to this area, because there's tons of swamp areas throughout the game and tons of areas where you get poisoned. But I think the main thing that makes this area super hard, well, at least super annoying, is the run back. Firstly, there are no checkpoints in this area, so the run back to the boss or anywhere near towards the end of the area is going to be super fucking annoying, because you have to go through it all again. And all this is enough to make this area super difficult, but we have to add the enemies. Firstly, the enemies here are pretty fast and obnoxious and just annoying, especially due to the fact where you're in a swamp where you can't really dodge them and you're super vulnerable. And on top of that, enemies are at every nook, cranny, and corner of this area. They are everywhere. And now it's time for Dark Souls Remastered. And firstly, I'm going to give an honorable mention, and I'm going to give my honorable mention to the Duke's Archives. Firstly, the enemies in this area are a fucking tank. They're like, by tank, I don't mean like a lot of health, I just mean very strong. These guys do crazy amounts of damage, and that is due to the Channeler, which I think makes this area so much harder. I'm pretty sure he makes them have more defense, but he makes them have a shit ton more damage. So these guys are going to be doing so much damage to you. And on top of that, there are archers at almost every corner, and let me tell you, these archers do not play. They will do a shit ton of damage, and on top of all that, you're like in a mazy little thing where it's kind of hard to figure out where you're going, and there's those fucking channelers who will shoot arrows at you and buff the enemies. And for my main spot for Dark Souls Remastered, the hardest area in the game, in my personal opinion, is the Catacombs. And I'm not considering Tomb of the Giants, because I know Catacombs is a relatively short area, but the Tomb of the Giants would still add to the difficulty because it is very hard also. And the Catacombs is the one area that I will continuously struggle whenever I play this game. This is the one area where I will at least die a couple times and get lost while doing so. Now, the enemies here are pretty easy. I mean, they're just a bunch of skeletons, which you should kill in a couple hits, and they don't do that much damage. But they don't ever die until you kill the Necromancer. So it's basically just a bunch of infinitely respawning enemies until you kill the Necromancer. And half the time, it's pretty hard to find the Necromancer, and half the time the Necromancer is just like in a totally separate area where you can't even find him where his skeletons are at. But the main reason why this area is so difficult for me is just the navigation. I get lost so many times, I die to fall damage so many times, and it's so hard to find my way throughout this area. And now it's time for Dark Souls 2. And I'm obviously going to start off with an honorable mention, and I think you're going to predict what I'm about to say for either the honorable mention or the hardest. And my honorable mention is the Frigid Outskirts. Now, I feel like a lot of people say this is the hardest area, but I really don't think so. I think they're getting annoyance and frustration confused with difficulty. Now, this area is very difficult due to the fact that you cannot see shit. There is a constant snowstorm where you can't see anything, and this is a very wide open area, so like you need to know where you're going, which is impossible to do when you're fucking blinded, so you're definitely gonna get lost a lot. And on top of that, there are these respawning rangers that are a fucking nuisance. So yes, that is also very hard, and there's no checkpoints, no nothing, so the runbacks are fucking crazy. But it's not as hard as it is frustrating. And now it's time for Shrine of Amana. And honestly, on the top of my head, I cannot think of a harder area in the Soul series. And yeah, Shrine of Amana is the whole package. Firstly, it is like the Demon Souls area where you're going to be moving super slow because you're in about almost waist deep water. So obviously dodging enemies, which is already a little bit harder in Dark Souls 2, is a lot harder. Especially the stamina consuming, because in Dark Souls 2, you gotta regulate stamina a lot more strategically because it drains super fast, and especially in water where you're making no movement, it's gonna be super hard. Now for the area design, it's pretty simple. It's not confusing at all. It's a straight linear path to the end of the level, and there's three sections, which I'd say the second section is probably the hardest. And in each of these sections, it is going to be spammed with these mage archers who have crazy range, and these arrows track you. They have crazy tracking. They're super hard to roll through, and they do a decent amount of damage. So that on its own, trying to dodge in water is super annoying. Plus, there are these little fast crawly things that'll just gang up on you and absolutely butt rape you. And on top of that, there are these knights in the water who can move super fucking fast in the water. And it's like these guys are in 2 times speed. They hit super fast, they do a lot of damage, and they have a lot of health. They're just overall tanks. And dealing with all 3 of this together is pretty fucking hard. And I'm really not doing this area justice on how hard it really is. Just trust me when I say this. This area is super hard. Especially New Game Plus. This is by far, in my opinion, without a doubt, the hardest area in New Game Plus in the entire Souls game history, because it adds new enemies, and it's just, it's so hard to deal with in New Game Plus. But nonetheless, I actually still like this area. And now it's time to move to Bloodborne, and I wouldn't say this was a clear pick, but in my mind, I was pretty confident that I could say it was Fishing Hamlet. That, in my opinion, is probably the hardest area in this game. And while this area is known for the infamous shark gank, or these 2 shark monsters that are so fucking hard, and let alone there's 2 of them, it's almost impossible to fight. And I think I died to these guys more than any boss in this game, well, besides Orphan of Kos. And speaking of the Orphan of Kos, he is the end boss, or whatever, the boss at the end of this area. And I don't really know if you would, count that towards difficulty towards the area. Because, I mean, technically, if you were to ask where that boss is, he's in that area. But I don't know, you don't really consider that when exploring an area. So I don't know, if you do add that, it makes this area a lot harder. If you don't add it, this area is probably tied for the hardest area. And unlike Shrine of Amana, this area's got tons of verticality, so there's lots of places to go, lots of routes to explore, and there's just overall lots of very hard enemies in this area. And this level was definitely very intimidating, but also very fun. And now it is time for Dark Souls 3, the hardest area in Dark Souls 3. In my opinion, there's no contest. It is clear as day, and that is going to be the Ringed City. And coincidentally, this is also by far my favorite area of Dark Souls 3. And let me tell you, the challenge of this area starts as soon as you enter it with those archer guys, which do an absurd amount of fucking damage. Like, these guys basically one-shot you with one of their rounds of arrows, and there's 90 of them, so I've really never been able to successfully beat those guys. And then once you enter, the actual Ring City, I'm pretty sure they're both considered the same area, but I'm talking about the actual Ring City, the difficulty only apps up. With those ringed knights, those guys are a fucking spectacle, by the way, but no matter how strong you are, those guys are going to butt booty rape you. They are very strong, they are fast, they do a shit ton of damage, they have a decent amount of health, and they have a really crazy moveset. And I don't know why, but I think the thing that I struggled the most on in the Ring DLC was those giants, those giants with the fucking curved sword that they stomp on you and shit like that. They just had so much health. They always intimidated me where I couldn't think straight. And yeah, it was all downhill. And as we said earlier, I don't know if we're counting bosses towards the difficulty, but if we are, this area gets boosted tremendously because it hosts, in my opinion, the top 2 hardest bosses, or at least top 2 of the top 3 hardest bosses in Dark Souls 3, which is Midir and my beautiful, glorious Gale. And I really just think these are one of the hard areas that was done genuinely well, and not just for the sake of being difficult. And this is just your go-to area for Dark Souls 3, and in my opinion, this is just the icon of Dark Souls 3 areas. Now it is time for Sekiro. And I firstly want to give an honorable mention that might seem like a little bit of a hot take. I don't know, I haven't really studied Sekiro area takes. I usually do watch a couple videos, so I'm familiar, but I haven't really watched any Sekiro one, so I'm not 100% sure. And my honorable mention is going to be the Fountainhead Palace. Now, low-key, the enemies here are pretty easy. You got those guys that you just one-shot, and you just got some, regular ninja enemy-type guys. But those one-shot guys, if they just see you, you turn into an old man. And once you turn into an old man, it's basically Death Wish. You basically slow walk and stand still till all the other enemies gather around you and rape you. And as I said before, it is super hard not to get hit by them, because as soon as they just look at you, you turn into an old man. And for the hardest area of Sekiro, without a doubt in my mind, is the late game Ashina Castle, or whatever you want to call it. And I could summarize this area's difficulty in one word, and that is enemies. The enemies in this area are so fucking hard. They could literally be mini bosses on their own. And there are so many enemies here, spread it out, you're gonna get overwhelmed. And there's so many hard enemies in groups. There's a couple points where there's 2 enemies on you at once, and each of them could be a hard mini boss. If they're by themselves, they're a hard mini boss, and together it is almost near impossible. And there's not really not really anything else about this area that's super hard. It's pretty easy to progress through the level in terms of design and layout, but the enemies here are just so unbelievably fucking hard that it just has to become number 1. And now it is time for my favorite Souls game, Elden Ring. Now for the honorable mentions, since I love this game so much, I'll give 2 honorable mentions. The first one is going to be the Halleck Tree. Now every single video I've seen like on the hardest areas, because I watched a couple, to make sure I know what I'm talking about, make sure I know my stuff, and they always put this area as the hardest. Like everyone thinks it's so hard. Now I don't really agree with that. I've never really struggled on this area, but I can see how it could be like that because of all the rot and shit, and the enemies do overwhelm you here, and they do pretty hard. So I will agree with that, but I don't know, I've never really struggled with that much. And the second one is Crumbling Faram Azula. Now I don't know if this is a hot take or not because I don't really see anybody else struggle with it, but I struggled with it a lot. And in hindsight, I don't really think it'd be that hard, but since I struggle with it a lot, I'll put it in the honorable mentions. I don't necessarily know what it is. I know that dragon part with the birds is super annoying, and the enemies here can definitely overwhelm you. Them by themselves are relatively decently hard enemies, and if you pair a bunch of them together, it can get pretty overwhelming. And also the bosses here are fucking hard. The 2 bosses here are definitely, I'd say maybe top 7 hardest in the game, because I know Placidux isn't that hard, but Malekith, in my opinion, is super fucking hard. And now it is time for the hardest area, in my opinion, of Elden Ring, and that is going to be Inner Limb. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not, but it is the final area of the DLC. And low-key, this area for 90% of the time is your average DLC area. If not, low-key a little bit easier. The enemies here do hit relatively decently hard, and you're obviously gonna die a couple times, but that's just because it is an Elden Ring DLC area, which is guaranteed to be hard. But besides that, it's relatively on the easier side for Elden Ring DLC areas. Besides those couple of enemies, you know what I'm talking about, those lion enemies. Holy fuck, that just flips the whole game right over. Just rewrite the script. Those enemies were so unbelievably fucking hard, at least for me. I'm pretty sure I died to those guys around maybe 70 times on just that one guy. That one guy before that giant staircase where they summon the spirals, I think I died around 70 times. I spent 50 times or around 40 times trying to fight him, and then 30 times trying to run past him. I mean, I don't know, I just couldn't dodge his shit. He'd basically 2-shot me. I could never poise break him. I don't know what it was. He just intimidated me or some shit where I just couldn't play properly. And then when I went to run past him, he fucking lightning bolted me or something. He hit me with some crazy ass attacks. And then on that staircase, that fucking miracle lady would just fucking spam me with spirals. It was one of the most frustrating moments of my life, but that's why I'm putting it here. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.